All right, so y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video and I'll go over the correct answers. So for the factoring, you're going to have x minus 5 times x minus 10. For the math knowledge question, it tells us that a over b equals 3. So if I cross multiply, a has to equal 3 times b. Likewise, it tells us that b over c equals 7. So if I cross multiply, b would equal 7c. So if b equals 7c, I can plug that in here to get that a equals 21c. And so that puts both a and b in terms of c. And so now I'm going to use this fraction here, a plus b over b plus c. So a we found was 21c, b we found was 7c. And then again, b was 7c plus c. So 21c plus 7c is 28c, and 7c plus c is 8c. So 28c over 8c, the c's cancel, and this reduces to 14 over 4, which reduces to 7 over 2. So A would be your answer. Okay, so now we're going to look at lesson 16 today. We're going to be finding slopes and equations of lines. So hopefully you'll understand how to find the slope of a line and how to create an equation of a line. You should have done this last year and maybe even in 7th grade. So hopefully it'll mostly be review. But if not, it is not difficult. It may take just a minute to understand it, but it is something that's really important for geometry and for Algebra 2 and pre-calculus. So you really need to make sure that you practice these because they don't go away. So a linear equation is an equation whose graph is a line. Linear, you see the first 4 letters spells out line. A linear equation makes a line. The rise is the vertical change, so how much do you go up or down? The run is the horizontal change, how much do you go left to right? So when you're talking about slope, slope is the rise over the run. So we're going to want to find the slope of this line. So we're going from -8 up to -3. So how far is -8 from -3? Well, that's a change of 5. And then we're going from -5 to 11. So going from -5 to 11 is a change of 16. So when we do slope, we do rise over run. The rise, we went up 5, and then we ran left 16. So that's a -16 because we went to the left. So that could be your slope. If you wanted to think of it as running to the right, the 16 would be positive, and then you didn't rise, you fell by 5, so -5. So either way, you'll still get the -5 over 16. So slope, it's the rise over the run, the ratio of the rise to the run. If you want to use this formula, you can. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I think it's a great formula to use instead of trying to do just rise over run. Sometimes they don't give you a graph, and you can just plug it into this equation. So it's helpful to know slope is rise over run, but oftentimes you're going to need the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's a formula you probably want to memorize. A horizontal line, we don't change going up or down. So this is 0 over some number. So 0 over some number is 0. So for a horizontal line, your slope is always 0. So that's something that would be helpful to learn. For a vertical line, the run is 0. So you have some number over 0, which is undefined. And so vertical lines have an undefined slope. So you want to learn that as well. Slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and the y-intercept is your b. So some of y'all have probably seen that before. Y equals mx plus b. That's called slope-intercept because they give you the slope m and the y-intercept b. So we're going to use the graph of this line to write its equation. So y equals mx plus b is the form that we're wanting to write it in. So the first thing we need to do is find our slope. So our formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It doesn't matter which one is your y1 and your y2. It does matter that once you pick your y2, the x number that goes with it is your x2. So you can't switch these back and forth. So I'm going to pick this one as my second one. So y2 would be 5, and y1 would be -1. So 5 minus a -1, and then x2, the x value that went with 5 is -2, and then minus 4. So that becomes a plus. So I get 6 over -6, which is -1. So my m is -1, and then where does it cross the y-axis? Right here at 3. So my b is 3. So when I make my equation, y equals -1x is just -x plus 3. So that would be your equation. Okay, for the next one, they don't give us a graph, but they tell us the slope, that's our m, equals that, and it passes through this point. So the way that you work through this, start with y equals mx plus b. Our y value is -3. Our slope, they told us, was -5 over 2. Our x value, they said, was 4, and we need to figure out the b. So we're just going to solve this equation. So -3 would equal -5 times 4 is 20, but divided by 2 is -10. And then plus b. So add 10 to -3 to make 7 for your b value. So your equation would be y equals -5 over 2x plus 7. When you make the equation, you're always going to have x and y in your answer. So don't plug in numbers for x and y. You have to have those in the equation as your final answer. The only thing you plug in is the m and the b. So let's look at this example. We want to graph the line that has the equation y equals 2x minus 4. So there should be some graphs up at the top, at the front of the classroom on that table by the door, or you can use some of your graph paper, whichever one you would like to do. So we're going to graph the line. The first thing you're going to do is go to the y-intercept. So our y-intercept is -4. So you're going to go down to -4. And then our slope is 2 over an understood 1. So what we're going to do is go up 2 and to the right 1. And we go up and to the right because it's +2. And we can do that again, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And then get a ruler. And connect your dots. Make sure that you put arrows on your line to show that it keeps going. So that's how you can graph it. For this one, it's not currently in y equals mx plus b form, so we need to solve for y. So 5x minus 3y equals 9. The first thing we need to do is subtract the x so that we can get the y part by itself. So -3y equals -5x plus 9. And then you're going to divide by -3. So that's going to give you y equals positive 5 over 3x minus 3. So from there, we're going to go to our y-intercept, which is negative 3. The slope is positive again, so we're going to go up 5 and to the right 3. And then we'll do that again. And then you connect your dots. And that makes your equation, the line of that equation. So that's how that works. We're going to look at another example. We want to determine the slope of the graph. And what does the slope represent? So it starts at the origin. And then if you look, looks like there's another point. Let's keep going to make sure. There's another point, and there's another point. And it looks like those are all the same distance away from each other. So this point is 0, 0. And this point is 200. And then they're going 20 to 40. Halfway in between there is 30. So our slope is going to be y2, I'll do 30 minus 0, and then x2, 200 minus 0. So 30 over 200 would reduce to 3 over 20. So that's your slope. What does the slope represent? Well, the slope is the y values over the x values. So the y values is the cost of fuel, and divided by the miles driven, so per miles driven. That's what that slope is, cost of fuel per miles driven. Now we want to write an equation for the model. Well, we know our slope is 3 over 20. Our b, where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses at the origin, so our b is actually just a 0. So y equals m would be 3 over 20 x, and then we don't need to put plus 0, so that would just be your equation. Now it says use the equation to predict the cost of fuel for driving 2,000 miles. So 2,000 miles, this is an x value because miles is on your x-axis. So basically you're just going to plug in 2,000 into your x. So 3 times 2,000 is 6,000 divided by 20 would be 300, and it's money. That's the cost of fuel, so it should cost us about $300. So that's how you can work through ones like that. Now we're going to look at some practice problems. So y'all try these two by yourself and then unpause the video and I'll go over it. So the slope should be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I get 6 over 2, which is 3. For this next one, our slope is, we'll do 4 minus 2 and 3 minus 1. So 2 over 2, which is 1. So that's the slope that you should get for those two. If y'all need to pause the video and go back over those with your neighbor, you can. Looking at these next two, y'all try to write the equations, and then I'll go over them. So for this one, here is a point, and here's another point. So if I go up, I rise 1, and I'm going to go to the left 2. So my equation, my slope is going to be a negative 1 over 2 because I'm going to the left 2. I'm going up and to the left. So that's negative slope. And my y-intercept is 4 because I'm crossing the y-axis at 4. So y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4 is your equation. For D, we're going to start with y equals mx plus b and plug in the information they give us. So your y value is negative 1, your m is 3 over 2, and your x is 4. So -1 equals 3 times 4 is 12, and divided by 2 is 6. And then if you subtract 6, you're going to get -7 for your b value. So y equals 3 over 2x minus 7. So there's the equation for that one. Okay, we're going to look at these three. We want to write the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points, and we want to graph the 2 at the bottom. So y'all try these by yourself, and then unpause the video, and I'll go over it for you. So first thing we need to do is find our slope. So y2 minus a -2, x2 minus a 0. So that's going to become 2 plus 2 is 4 over 5. And then we're going to have to just plug it in to y equals mx plus b to find the b. So I'll use this one, 0, -2. So our y value is -2. Our slope was 4 over 5. The x value from that point is 0, and the b is just b. So 4/5 times 0 is just 0, so that means that -2 equals b. So our equation would be y equals 4 over 5x minus 2. So that would be your answer. For f, we want to graph it. So the first thing we need to do is put it in the right form. So it should be y equals -1/3 x plus 3, because we want it mx plus b. So our b is 3, so we're going to go up to 3, and then our slope is -1/3. So when it's negative, we're going to go down 1 and to the left 3. And then we'll do that again, down 1 and to the left 3. And so when you go to graph, make sure you connect your points, and there would be your line. For this next one, 3x plus y equals 6. We have to solve for y. So subtract 3x. So y equals -3x, and then plus that 6. So go up to 6, and our slope is -3 over an understood 1. So you go down 3 and to the right 1. Down 3 and to the right 1. And so that would be the equation of that line, or the graph of that equation. So hopefully you were able to get most of those practice problems right. I hope that most of it was review, but if not, and y'all need to go over something, y'all do that. We're going to try the challenge question. Are these 2 lines parallel? Explain your answer. So see if you can figure it out, and then I'll go over it. So let's start with the black line. The slope looks like there's a point and there's a point. It looks like it's 2 over 3. So the slope is 2/3. For the blue line, it looks like here's a point and there's another point. And you go up 1, 2, 3 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope is 3 over 4. Are those the same slopes? No. So since they're not the same slopes, they are not parallel lines. Parallel lines have the exact same slope. They're never going to cross. These two eventually will cross. So they are not parallel. So y'all make sure that y'all do your homework 1 through 30 tonight, so we can go over any questions you have tomorrow.